In the stillness of midnight, when the world grows quiet and the noise of the day falls away, there exists a hidden doorway into the creative dimension where miracles are born. It is in this sacred hour that the mind softens, the subconscious awakens, and the universe becomes unusually attentive to the whisper of your inner command. Midnight is not just a time, it is a realm, a spiritual crossing point where unseen forces reorganize themselves according to the state you dare to embody. And tonight, you are about to receive a code, only 7 words long, that has transformed fear into faith, lack into abundance, and impossibility into reality for those bold enough to use it. This is not a ritual, not a superstition, not wishful thinking. This is the law of creation in its purest form. If you have ever felt that life was waiting for you to step into your power, then know this. The moment you speak this code with conviction, the moment you claim your desire as already fulfilled, the universe will begin rearranging itself in your favor. Tonight you will learn the 7 word midnight code used for miracles, and once you understand it, nothing in your life will remain the same. The hidden mechanics of midnight manifestation. Midnight holds a power that most people never truly understand, yet it influences the very fabric of creation in ways that surpass logic, reason, and physical circumstance. It is the hour when the conscious mind grows quiet and the deeper unseen layers of reality become pliable, responsive, and astonishingly obedient to your inner state. To grasp the hidden mechanics of midnight manifestation, you must first understand that your life is not shaped by effort or struggle, but by the assumptions you carry when no one is watching and no one is listening. Midnight amplifies these assumptions because it is the only moment of the day when the external world stops demanding your attention. The noise of the world fades, and the noise of your own inner world becomes the only voice that matters. In those silent minutes past 12, the subconscious mind, the actual architect of your reality, is open, sensitive, unguarded, and ready to receive impressions without resistance. This is why people throughout history have prayed at midnight, meditated at midnight, journaled at midnight, and sought visions at midnight. Not because of superstition, but because the human mind is at its most powerful and receptive state when the conscious guard falls asleep. Midnight manifestation is not about candles or rituals. It is about understanding the inner mechanics of creation and using them deliberately. The mind you bring into this hour becomes the blueprint the universe uses to rearrange everything around you. Imagine your mind as a vast, infinite workshop, and imagine midnight as the moment when the doors to that workshop swing wide open. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption becomes a tool lying on the table, waiting to be used for creation. During the daytime, your workshop is cluttered with noise, doubts, fears, responsibilities, conversations, obligations, and these distractions weaken the power of your intentions. But at midnight, when the world grows silent, your workshop becomes clear, still, and focused. The subconscious, your silent partner, waits for its instruction. It doesn't follow what you hope nor what you wish. It follows what you assume to be true. And at midnight, assumptions are stronger, heavier, more magnetic. This is why the creative power of midnight should never be wasted on fear, anxiety, or replaying the disappointments of the day. Whatever you repeatedly feel during these quiet hours imprints itself with unusual strength and becomes the foundation for future events. The hidden mechanics of midnight manifestation also revolve around emotional neutrality. During the day, your emotions are reactive, responding to news, people, situations, problems. But at midnight, emotions settle into stillness, and this neutrality opens the door for intentional feeling. Intentional feeling is the real force of creation because feeling bridges the gap between imagination and physical reality. When you deliberately choose the feeling of having what you desire at midnight, whether that is abundance, love, healing, success, clarity, or elevation, the subconscious accepts it as fact and begins constructing outer circumstances to match it. The world you see tomorrow is shaped by the feeling you fall asleep with tonight. Midnight gives you a head start. It gives you a clear channel. It gives you a moment when you are closest to the truth that your inner world is the origin of everything. Another hidden mechanic is the weakening of the analytical mind. Throughout the day, the analytical mind filters out ideas it considers unrealistic, illogical, or impossible. But at midnight, when the brain enters slower frequencies, alpha, then theta, these analytical filters soften. You are less skeptical, you are less resistant, you are more imaginative, you are more accepting of new realities. This is why visualizing your desire at midnight feels more real, more vivid, more attainable. The brain is no longer arguing with you, it is collaborating with you. It becomes easier to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled because your mind is slipping naturally into the same state you enter before dreaming. And remember this truth: every dream feels real because the subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and physical life. Midnight manifestation uses this exact principle deliberately. You paint the picture, the subconscious brings it to life. But perhaps the most powerful mechanic of midnight manifestation is identity. Midnight is the hour where identity can shift more quickly than any other time. During the day, you identify with your role, your job, your responsibilities, your title, your problems, but at midnight, these roles dissolve. You are no longer the worker, the parent, the student, the provider, the struggler. You return to the base self, the creative self, the infinite self, the self that existed before labels, fear, and limitation. This identity is pure potential, and whatever identity you assume at midnight becomes the identity the world must mirror back to you. If you choose the identity of someone blessed, life must obey. If you choose the identity of someone successful, the universe must reorganize in your favor. If you choose the identity of someone healed, the body begins changing to match it. If you choose the identity of someone wealthy, opportunities that align with that identity begin moving toward you. Midnight is the hour of identity because identity is the birthplace of transformation. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest who you become. The hidden mechanics of midnight manifestation also involve the principle of emotional momentum. Whatever emotional state you enter sleep with becomes the emotional fuel that powers your next day. If you sleep in frustration, the next day brings more frustration. If you sleep in fear, the next day brings more reasons to fear. But if you sleep in fulfillment, feeling as though the miracle is already yours, you wake into a world that must reflect that feeling. Midnight is the emotional reset button of the universe. It allows you to strip away the heaviness of the day and choose a new state deliberately, and the subconscious, unguarded and attentive, obeys instantly. Finally, midnight is powerful because the veil between the seen and unseen is thinner. Not in a mystical or supernatural sense, but in a psychological, spiritual, and vibrational sense. The inner world speaks louder, the outer world steps aside, and in this silence you are reminded of a truth most people forget: that you are the one shaping your life, that your imagination is the source of your future, and that midnight is the moment you can rewrite everything. Midnight manifestation is not about waiting for life to change, it is about entering the stillness of the night and rewriting reality from within. When you understand the hidden mechanics operating at this hour, you stop wishing for miracles. You begin creating them, and every night becomes an opportunity to claim the life that is already waiting for you. Why midnight is the most powerful hour for miracles? Midnight is not merely the transition from one day to the next. It is the precise moment when the world loosens its grip on your awareness and the unseen realm opens itself to your intention with unusual sensitivity. To understand why midnight is the most powerful hour for miracles, you must recognize that creation responds to the quality of your consciousness, not the quantity of your actions. Throughout the day, consciousness is fragmented, pulled in different directions by responsibilities, problems, conversations, and the constant stream of sensory impressions. But when midnight arrives, this fragmentation dissolves. You enter a natural state of inwardness, a state where your attention turns away from the outer world and toward the inner universe where all creation begins. The conscious mind, which usually stands guard like a skeptical gatekeeper, grows tired and steps aside. And in this rare moment of inner silence, the subconscious, the true creator, the silent mover of circumstances, becomes exposed, unprotected, and open to receive whatever feeling or assumption you impress upon it. Midnight is powerful because the resistance is gone, the doubts are quieter, the mind is softer, and the emotional atmosphere becomes neutral enough for you to choose a new state of being. You are not fighting against the momentum of the day, you are starting from a clean slate, a blank canvas where imagination is free to paint without contradiction. Another reason midnight holds unmatched power is the shift in brainwave activity that naturally occurs between wakefulness and sleep. Earlier in the day, your mind operates primarily in beta brainwaves, fast, analytical, logical, and often filled with stress. But as midnight approaches, especially when you are alone and the world grows quiet, your brain slips into alpha and then theta brainwaves. These slower frequencies are the gateway between the conscious and subconscious, the same states used in hypnosis, deep meditation, and creative visualization. In these waves, you are more suggestible, more imaginative, and more receptive to new beliefs. This is why visualizing a desired outcome at midnight feels more vivid, more real, and more emotionally charged. The conscious mind, responsible for filtering out perceived fantasies or impossibilities, relaxes its grip. This allows you to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled with ease, without inner arguments or logical interference. In this state, you can embody the reality you desire as though it already exists, and because the subconscious accepts emotional experience as fact, it begins moving the invisible pieces of your life into new positions to align with the state you fell asleep in. Midnight is also the most powerful hour for miracles because it is the hour of emotional reset. During the day, emotions accumulate: frustrations, disappointments, fears, responsibilities, challenges. These build up like layers of dust on your consciousness. But midnight is the moment when life pauses long enough for you to wipe the slate clean. The body slows down, the breath deepens, and the nervous system begins to shift toward restoration. In this softened emotional state, you can choose how you want tomorrow to feel. If you choose peace, tomorrow bends toward peace. If you choose abundance, tomorrow bends toward abundance. If you choose fulfillment, tomorrow obeys. Midnight becomes the emotional tuning fork that sets the frequency of your next day. And because emotions are the magnets of manifestation, the energetic glue that holds your reality together, what you feel at midnight becomes the foundation upon which the next sequence of events is built. But perhaps the most profound reason midnight is the hour of miracles is that it is the hour of identity, the hour when you are closest to your purest self. During the day, you wear different masks: the worker, the parent, the achiever, the struggler, the helper, the one who must get things done. These identities are functional but not creative. They keep you in roles shaped by circumstance. But at midnight, when the world sleeps and the noise fades, you return to your original self, the inner being who is limitless, imaginative, and unrestricted by the rules of physical life. In this state, you can more easily claim a new identity: the healed version of yourself, the wealthy version of yourself, the loved and valued version of yourself, the version of you who is already living the miracle. This identity shift is the true seed of manifestation. When you assume a new state at midnight, the universe reshapes itself around that identity with astonishing precision. People shift, circumstances shift, opportunities unlock, delays dissolve. The miracle begins the moment you decide who you are at midnight, because the world must mirror that identity back to you by dawn. Midnight also amplifies intention because it carries the symbolic meaning of rebirth. It is the death of one day and the birth of another. It is the closing of an old reality and the opening of a new one. This symbolism affects the subconscious more deeply than most people realize. The subconscious responds strongly to symbols, cycles, and transitions. Midnight is the greatest daily transition, a spiritual reset point that your deeper mind recognizes as an opportunity to begin again. When you speak your intention at midnight, you are not simply declaring it, you are placing it at the threshold of a new day, a new timeline, a new energetic cycle. This gives your intention greater momentum. You are planting the seed at the most fertile moment of the day. Finally, midnight is powerful because silence itself is powerful. Noise distracts, silence amplifies. In silence, your inner voice becomes clearer, your imagination becomes louder, and your feelings become deeper. In silence, you can sense the presence of the unseen forces that work in harmony with your assumptions. You feel connected to something greater. You feel guided, supported, heard. Silence is not empty. Silence is full, full of possibility, full of potential, full of miracles waiting to take shape. Midnight gives you access to that silence, and in that silence you remember a truth that changes everything. The miracle you seek is not outside of you. It is inside your imagination, inside your assumption, inside your identity. And midnight is the hour when you can claim it most powerfully. The origin and purpose of the seven-word midnight code. The seven-word midnight code did not emerge from superstition, ritual, or random inspiration. It was born from a deep understanding of how consciousness, assumption, and emotional identity interact with the universal law of creation. Its origin lies in the recognition that reality is shaped not by effort, but by inner conviction, not by struggle, but by the state one occupies within. Throughout history, spiritual practitioners, mystics, sages, and quiet thinkers discovered a common truth that the mind, in its stillest, most surrendered state, possesses the power to collapse old patterns and create new conditions instantly. Midnight, being the hour of silence and transition, became the natural birthplace of this discovery. As they observed the mind drifting between waking and dreaming, between logic and imagination, they realized that this twilight state was the gateway to the subconscious, the architect behind every unfolding event in one's life. It was during these hours that the idea of a spoken declaration, simple enough to bypass resistance yet powerful enough to impress certainty, began to take shape. Over time, this declaration was refined, shortened, and purified into the exact seven-word structure that carries its potency today. The code was never meant to be poetic. It was designed to be operational. It was engineered to speak directly to the creative mechanism within you, bypassing the noise of the intellect and delivering a clear, concise command to the inner self that governs all outer changes. The purpose of the seven-word midnight code is to collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment, between what you want and the identity of the one who already has it. Most people live their lives wishing for things while simultaneously identifying as someone who lacks them. This creates inner conflict, and the subconscious mind always obeys identity, not desire. To ask for abundance while feeling like someone struggling, or to ask for love while feeling unworthy, is to block the very thing you seek. The purpose of the code is to snap you out of that contradiction. Its seven words are structured to declare completion, ownership, and present moment fulfillment. When spoken at midnight, the code becomes a reset point, a collapsing of the old identity and an instant claiming of the new one. It is a shift from I want to I am. It is the bridge between imagining your desire and embodying it. The code forces the subconscious to accept a new truth, that the desire is no longer something distant, but something already completed within you. And the moment the subconscious accepts something as true, the outer world begins rearranging itself automatically to reflect that truth. Another purpose of the seven-word midnight code is to shut down the analytical mind, which is the greatest enemy of manifestation. The analytical mind questions, doubts, hesitates, and argues based on what it sees. It has no faith in the unseen, no understanding of spiritual laws, no interest in the realm of imagination. It only believes in what is physically present. But at midnight, this part of the mind grows quiet. It becomes tired, unfocused, softened. This is the perfect moment to deliver a precise statement that carries emotional certainty. The code works because it is short, 7 words, nothing extra, nothing complicated, nothing the analytical mind can pick apart. A longer statement invites doubt. A shorter one slips past resistance. These words are crafted to activate the feeling of done, bypass logic, and imprint fulfillment directly onto the subconscious. This is why the code works so quickly. It does not require elaborate rituals, complicated visualizations, or hours of effort. It requires only sincerity, belief, and a willingness to enter the identity of someone whose desire is already complete. The origin of the code also lies in the ancient understanding that the universe responds most powerfully to finality. When you declare something as finished, as already accomplished, the subconscious accepts that state as its new baseline. The code's structure, 2 parts, 7 words, mirrors this ancient principle. The first part declares completion, the second part claims possession. Together, they form an identity shift that aligns you instantly with the version of yourself living your miracle. Because the moment you accept the identity of the fulfilled version of you, the world must rearrange to match it. Identity is the law. Identity is the creator. Identity is destiny. And the code functions by changing identity from seeker to receiver, from hoping to having, from waiting to being. The purpose of the code extends even further. It is designed to create emotional certainty. Emotion is the fuel of manifestation. Words without emotion are empty. Words with emotion become commands. The 7 words of the code are intentionally simple so that you can infuse them with feeling. When spoken at midnight, they merge with the quiet, emotional landscape of the subconscious and form a new state, a state that becomes magnetic. The code anchors this emotional state so deeply that even when you wake up the next morning, the subconscious continues to operate from the assumption of fulfillment. From this state, you no longer chase your desire. You live as the one who has already received it. And because the outer world must reflect your inner state, the miracle becomes inevitable. Another profound purpose of the code is psychological alignment. Most people feel one thing, think another, and speak a third. This creates inner conflict. The code unifies thought, feeling, and identity in a single moment. It aligns your consciousness with your desire in the simplest possible way. It gives your subconscious one clear message instead of scattered signals. This clarity is what accelerates manifestation. When your inner world stops contradicting itself, your outer world shifts effortlessly. Finally, the 7 word midnight code has a purpose beyond manifestation. It trains you to trust your inner power. It awakens self-authority. It teaches you that creation begins within, that you are the operant power, that your assumptions shape your world, and that miracles are not granted by something outside you, but activated by something inside you. The origin of this code comes from a lineage of those who understood the laws of consciousness, and its purpose is to return that power to you. It reminds you that you do not need permission, conditions, or perfect circumstances to create change. You need only the courage to claim your desire as already done, and the perfect moment to claim it, the moment where the inner world is the most receptive, the most open, the most obedient, is midnight. How the 7 word midnight code reprograms your subconscious for miracles. The power of the 7 word midnight code lies not in the words themselves, but in the transformation they trigger within the deepest layers of your subconscious, the hidden engine behind every event, opportunity, relationship, coincidence, and breakthrough that unfolds in your life. To understand how the code reprograms your subconscious for miracles, you must first recognize that the subconscious does not respond to logic, reason, or effort. It responds only to the dominant feeling you carry, the identity you assume, and the internal story you silently repeat when the world isn't watching. Most people live with subconscious programs planted by past experiences, failures, fears, doubts, and old self-concepts that were never consciously chosen. These programs run automatically, shaping outcomes that match the assumptions buried beneath awareness. The 7 word midnight code functions like a direct command that breaks the old program and installs a new one, because midnight is the hour when the subconscious is most open, most sensitive, and most willing to accept new instructions. When you speak the code at this time, you bypass resistance and deliver a message straight into the creative mechanism that shapes your reality. The subconscious cannot argue, question, or analyze at midnight. It can only absorb. This is why so many people experience rapid shifts, synchronicities, and miraculous changes shortly after using the code consistently. The code works by altering the emotional baseline of the subconscious. The subconscious is programmed through emotion, not through force, repetition alone, or intellectual understanding. If you feel unworthy, life brings situations that match unworthiness. If you feel abundant, life brings conditions that mirror abundance. At midnight, emotional intensity softens, allowing you to deliberately choose the emotion you want to plant into the subconscious. The 7 words become a vessel for this emotion, carrying the feeling of fulfillment directly into the creative core of your being. Each time you speak the code, you are essentially saying, "This is who I am now. This is my new identity. This is my new truth." And because the subconscious treats identity as law, it immediately begins creating circumstances that reflect the state you just declared. This is how miracles begin, not through external effort, but through an internal emotional shift that redefines what you believe you deserve and who you believe yourself to be. Another powerful way the 7 word midnight code reprograms the subconscious is through the principle of assumption. The subconscious accepts whatever you repeatedly assume to be true, even if your physical circumstances contradict it. This is why imagining yourself successful, loved, healthy, or abundant has the power to create those conditions in real life. The code is designed to activate this principle instantly. Its structure forces you to assume the end, the completion, the fulfillment, the realization of your desire, rather than the lack of it. Instead of asking, waiting, or hoping, the code makes you declare. It pushes you into the state of the wish fulfilled. And because midnight lowers the guard of the analytical mind, the assumption sinks deeper and settles faster. The subconscious then takes this assumption and treats it as a blueprint, drawing experiences, people, opportunities, and events that match the emotional and psychological reality you declared. The outer world reorganizes itself around the new assumption you installed. The code also reprograms the subconscious by breaking old mental loops. During the day, your mind is bombarded with stress, comparison, doubt, and habitual negative thinking. These thoughts form grooves in the subconscious, creating an automatic cycle that repeats itself day after day. But when you speak the code at midnight, you interrupt this cycle at its weakest point, when the conscious mind is fading and the subconscious is resetting. This interruption stops the momentum of old negative patterns and replaces them with a new direction. The code becomes a mental pivot point, shifting your inner narrative from limitation to fulfillment. Over time, this shift becomes permanent. The brain rewires itself, neural pathways strengthen, and the subconscious adopts the new belief as its default state. This is why the code becomes more powerful the more you use it. Each repetition deepens the groove of the new program and erases the old one. One of the most profound ways the code reprograms the subconscious is by merging imagination with identity. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is imagined vividly and what is physically experienced. If you imagine yourself wealthy, the subconscious believes it. If you imagine yourself healed, the subconscious begins orchestrating healing. If you imagine yourself loved, the subconscious shifts your self-concept to attract relationships that match that feeling. The 7 word midnight code is crafted to create this fusion instantly. The moment you speak it, you must imagine the feeling behind the words, and in that moment of emotional imagination, identity shifts. The subconscious then aligns with that identity and begins constructing your outer world accordingly. This fusion is the essence of miracle creation. When imagination becomes identity, identity becomes reality. The code also reprograms the subconscious by eliminating the sense of distance between you and your desire. The subconscious does not understand time, it only understands now. If you say, "I will be wealthy someday," the subconscious hears, "not wealthy." If you say, "I want to be healed," it hears, "not healed." Desire expressed as longing reinforces lack. But the 7 word midnight code expresses everything in the present tense, the language the subconscious understands. It makes the desire immediate, current, and complete. The subconscious then begins producing physical conditions that match the emotional now you declared. Lastly, the code reprograms the subconscious by anchoring you in the state of certainty. Certainty is the creative power behind miracles. Doubt delays manifestation. Certainty accelerates it. Midnight is the hour when certainty becomes easiest to access, because the mind is soft, the body is relaxed, and the emotional landscape is quiet. When you speak the code with certainty at midnight, you imprint the subconscious with the belief that what you desire is already yours. This certainty becomes a magnet that pulls your miracle into physical form. It influences your decisions, your behavior, your opportunities, your timing. You begin acting as the fulfilled version of yourself without even trying, and life responds accordingly. It is not luck, it is alignment. It is not chance, it is resonance. The state of receiving, aligning with the energy of effortless manifestation. The state of receiving is not something you chase, force, or struggle your way into. It is a natural magnetic field you step into when you stop resisting the good that is already trying to reach you. Most people pray for miracles while holding beliefs that block those very miracles from entering their lives. They ask for abundance while carrying the vibration of fear. They desire love while expecting rejection, and they want success while internally repeating stories of failure. The true art of receiving begins when you release the emotional barricades, the mental noise, and the old identity that says you must fight for everything you want. Instead, you open yourself up to the truth that what you seek is already aligned with you the moment you desire it, because desire itself is a divine signal that the thing exists for you. When you enter the state of receiving, you are no longer doubting whether your manifestation will arrive. You are living as if it has already found you. In this state, your energy becomes calm, confident, and deeply trusting. You stop chasing outcomes and start attracting them. You stop begging the universe and start partnering with it. You stop trying to predict how things will work and instead lean fully into the knowing that everything is unfolding precisely for your highest good. Being in the state of receiving is not passive. It is a powerful inner activity. It is choosing to align your thoughts, emotions, and assumptions with the reality you want, moment by moment, breath by breath. It is accepting what you desire without guilt, without fear, without pressure, and without shrinking yourself to fit past versions of you. When you receive, you rise, you allow, you expand, you affirm to yourself and the universe, I am ready, I am worthy, I am open. This readiness creates an internal shift where your frequency becomes a match to your manifestation. You start embodying the version of yourself who already has the money, the freedom, the clarity, the relationship, the success, and the peace. You elevate your self-perception to match your desired reality. This is why the state of receiving is the single most transformational internal shift you can make. Manifestation is not a battle between you and the world. It is a dance between your inner state and your outer experience. Everything you want is already completed in the unseen. The moment you enter the receiving state, you simply allow it to express in the physical. Receiving requires surrender, but not the surrender of giving up. It requires surrender of resistance, surrender of fear, surrender of overthinking, surrender of the belief that you must earn your blessings. When you surrender resistance, you create space for the flow of abundance, guidance, opportunities, and solutions to move toward you. The state of receiving also means trusting the timing without doubting the outcome. You don't question the seed once it is planted. You don't dig it up to see if it is growing. You nurture it with faith. You expect its blooming. This is the same with manifestations. They unfold when your internal environment is aligned with growth rather than fear. And the moment you choose to receive, life begins responding differently. You notice signs, you attract aligned people, unexpected resources show up, conversations shift, ideas spark, all because you stopped blocking what was already yours. In this state, you stop replaying old memories and start rehearsing the reality you are stepping into. You stop vibrating with old wounds and begin resonating with new possibilities. You stop accepting lesser outcomes and start claiming the greatness that was always meant for you. The state of receiving elevates not just what you attract, but who you become. It strengthens your intuition, sharpens your awareness, expands your capacity to hold abundance, and rewires your identity from scarcity to surplus. It is the key that unlocks everything you have been trying to force into existence. Ultimately, the state of receiving is the moment you decide to no longer fight for your future, but to welcome it. It is understanding that the universe is not withholding anything from you. You have simply been withholding your openness to receive it. But now you are stepping into your next level. You are stepping into alignment. You are stepping into certainty. You are stepping into the energy of "it is already mine." And once you embody that state consistently, nothing can stop what is already destined for you. This is your birthright. This is your power. This is your moment. The state of receiving is here, and you are ready for it.